the Strength of America podcast.
All right, welcome to episode 6 of the theSOApodcast. Today, some of the questions we've been getting are mainly about recovery. And it's one of the things that's most important actually for athletes. We get thinking a lot about increasing power, speed. Now we're getting more into injury prevention, which is great. But these kids can't just go unlimited hours every day, keep going on without thinking about recovery. And unless we really focus on that and help educate our kids, as well as our coaches a little bit more on what to do and help them, they're spinning their wheels. So, Bobby, what are some of the common things that you see with athletes coming in, recovery issues that they're just not even thinking are important?
Right off the bat, the simplest stuff is getting their meals in every day, make sure you're getting enough protein, getting the simple aspects of nutrition. I see more and more now starting to get more water, but they're not handling the nutrition, so it doesn't help really stay hydrated. Really just flushing their body out. So main things I really see are just the meals not eating enough, not getting enough in them to fuel themselves and recover, and not sleeping enough. Sleep's poor. They'll be up late doing stuff or on their phone or different things like that. And then maybe they are sleeping, but are they really getting quality sleep, or are they waking up here and there, tossing and turning a lot?
Well, that's a good point talking about these phones. These kids all have these electronics now and have the phones, or a lot of them have TVs in their room, stuff going on. It's just not going to be restful sleep. The phone's going off, making noises during the night. Make sure they shut that phone off. It's in another room. Keep it downstairs, something that's out of their way, because it's out of temptation. They're thinking about it. They're not going to be sleeping well. Or if they're awake thinking, they're not getting rest either. So we've got to make sure it's a restful sleep. And with our athletes, we tell them we want most of them sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night. And it doesn't mean in bed for 8 to 9 hours, but actually a sleep knock. They get up, they should actually feel good, ready to go for the day. And that kind of brings us to some of the talk with overtraining too. We used to talk a lot about overtraining and worried about exhausting these kids too much, but really we found through the years it's more about them just not being prepared. They're not recovering correctly because their bodies are the most efficient bodies they're going to have in their entire life as kids. But if they're not fueling it right, they're not doing all the things they can to recover, that's when they see the overtraining symptoms. So that's where the food chart that we've seen a couple of weeks ago, you saw the fuel chart, and we're getting people downloading that, which is great, and getting feedback on that. But they have to go beyond that point. Once they fill out that food chart, when you got that back to them, if they didn't do a good job or had some problems, did you have them fill out another one? I know when we do our summer camp, we'll start them at the beginning of that, filling it out. I'll have some fill it out every week for the first 3 to 4 weeks until they get the system down. It's not just a project, but it's really trying to teach them how to eat and how to prepare for it. And if they're getting their meals, that's good protein, but get their meals in as they go through it. When they start after school sports, a lot of them have just had something to eat at lunch, which was 3 hours or better. And now they're expected to go through a 2.5 hour practice. You can't expect them to stay at that level the whole time. So one of the things we want them to do is after school, make sure that they have a half peanut butter sandwich or some trail mix and fruit, something that they've got consistent. They've got protein, but they've got something a little bit in them. Not so much, it's not a full meal, but enough to give them a boost, keep them going, and they can keep giving that energy to them. What about other things that they can do outside of that? Or like foam rollers, what about those kind of things? What kind of stuff help in recovery after maybe intense games or stuff like that to get them ready for that?
Right after, I'd say if they're something real easy, if they work their lower body that day or full body or whatever, and they feel something or certain muscle groups that are a lot tighter than others, probably want to go and stretch those muscles, probably want to do a little rolling or different things, help with circulation and some of that stuff going on, but definitely stretching the areas you just worked. Don't worry about stretching all these other muscles if you're super flexible already. As an athlete, you want to have some spring in your body, and if you're too flexible, you're not going to have that pop. But with that said, it's never going to be a bad thing to stretch the muscles you just worked right after. It's going to kind of help release you after you're real bound up, real tight after that work, and kind of release you down a little bit. So it's always good to kind of help the tissue and everything kind of relax and get back to a better state. But I want to go back to that point and touch on, well, first of all, I guess foam rollers. I see so many people that are trying to foam roll all the time or trying to do all this stuff all the time. And first of all, they're not even strength training to strengthen their body. That's the biggest thing. Everybody's trying to roll and feel better, but if you're not strong and you're not stable, you're not going to feel good no matter how much you foam roll. outside of that, no matter how much foam rolling and stretching you do, if your recovery, if you're not sleeping, you're not eating, it does not matter. It's not going to do. It's not going to be some magic pill that's going to help you feel great. So big on personal accountability. And if they're not doing their stuff, they're going to learn by 2x4, kind of like we like to say, and they're just going to keep feeling bad. And hopefully there's a point where they say, hey, I don't want to feel bad anymore. I want to start pushing my body. So I got to make sure I'm doing the things on my part. Okay. And my part, I mean, as an athlete, I have to make sure that outside of training, outside of practice and stuff, how many hours out of the day that is, there's only an hour of training with me and 2 hours with their sports coach. On a day of the week, they're only with me 2 hours a week if they're in season, and that's not a lot of hours you're with us in the week. So there's a lot of hours that's on you as an athlete to take care of yourself. So you got to make sure you got your ducks in a row and you're taking care of what you can, so that when the coaches come along, then we can really work and get better. But if we're not doing those simple things, you're kind of burning the candle at both ends. I mean, you may get better still, but I mean, it's going to be a steep climb rather than a smoother climb. So,
and that's I think one of the things we talked about, that learning with a 2x4. Some of the kids you can talk to, explain to them about the food, sleep, all of that. But I know our first couple of weeks of our summer conditioning, for example, and again, Phoenix, our heat, it gets up 110, 115 degrees. But those kids that have learned ahead of time, they're signing up, we're getting the information, they're eating right, they already know what they're doing, hitting the gate. They do great right away. Our first week of practice, no problems at all. However, we'll have some of those kids that are pushing the envelope, think they're okay, or they don't have to eat, they're doing all right, and they have trouble at practice. But it also helps them understand, because we'll ask during practice, how many of you had your 4 meals before you came to our camp this night? How many of you had with protein in each of those meals? How many water? And we want to see hands, because those kids that haven't eaten correctly, and see how many of them that have hands up that are feeling great during these conditioning workouts, and they're not doing too well, right away it helps them understand, oh man, I didn't eat. Just like they can do great during the week, and then come Monday, we start seeing some of the kids having problems, and they didn't all of a sudden get out of shape. What happens over the weekend? They were up too late at night, didn't get enough sleep. They definitely didn't get their 5 to 6 meals a day on Saturdays and Sundays, because they stayed up so late and slept in till noon, and they were only up to have 2 or 3 meals in. Monday hits, their body's not prepared. They can't handle the stress of what's going on, and they tank during our workouts. So again, that hits them real quick, because that only usually happens once, and then they feel it, they understand it, they go back, and then they start getting their meals in correctly. So you got to find that button, find ways to help them understand it. Doesn't mean beat them up, run them to the ground, and then they understand that, but help them understand by looking at who else is in the group, who's having troubles in that group. And again, almost always it's not a conditioning issue. It's really more they're just not ready to go.
Lack
they haven't
of preparation, yeah.
That's exactly it. They just didn't prepare and do their stuff. And like Bobby was talking about the strength issue. There's, after 30 years of doing this, I've seen so many things from core training, sport specific training, the foam rolling now. We've got to do yoga. We have to do this. It's a complement of a lot of different things that makes that athlete who they are. It's not one thing is ever going to be the thing that's going to handle everything. But so right now the foam roller is a thing to do, which is great. There's a lot of benefit to it. However, some of them are spending so much time doing that, they're neglecting the part that they need to.
Yeah.
They're not training. They're not strong enough to handle the stress of the sport. And that's why they go through it. But then after those intense games, we also see that they're not recovering with the right type of food. They're not getting the rest they need to afterwards. And they're up for an early morning practice to beat them up the next day after that game the night before, when they haven't done anything to kind of prepare and get themselves recovered from that to get to the next stage. And that's where, the kids will let you know different things you can do that. But one of the things that we've always liked for a lot of years is, and a big part of it is what it's made of and what's going on, but Shamrock Farms has a great product, Rock and Refuel. And with that Rock and Refuel, it's made from real milk. You've got the good boost of the protein in it as well. But the big thing for us working with these kids, as adults, we can choke down something that doesn't taste good because we know it's something we need and we've got to do that. Kids aren't going to do that. So they like the chocolate milk. They've got vanilla. They've got strawberry. They've got great flavors. It's good for them. And again, it gives them 20 grams of protein or more or less, depending on which of the products you take care of. But the bottom line is they like it. It helps get an additional source of the protein that they need. And boy, post-workout, and you watch the race car drivers forever. When they finish, what do? They grab that liter of milk and they're drinking that milk after they get done. So having a combination of the chocolate or strawberry, whatever they're putting into it, the carbs from the sugars and stuff, I don't care what they tell you in California schools and things going on to it, the chocolate milk is not what's making kids fat in school. And they'll block it, pull it out. But what do? They pulled the chocolate milk out so the kids can't choose that. So they have regular white milk, which if they don't like the flavor of just that, they're not going to drink it. So the only other choice they had was what? They gave them apple juice. So now you've got, there's no protein. Now we're just going to give them even more sugar on top of that. And that was the solution.
On top of that, I'll touch on two things about movement for recovery. But while we're here on this topic, I get people that ask questions about sugar, or they're scared of sugar and carbs, and it's not something to be scared about. If you're an adult and you're not very active, you're pretty sedentary, then maybe after workout, you don't want to go to something that has so much sugar because, well, you're just not moving enough to utilize it, or maybe you didn't have a good enough workout to where you could utilize it. But the kids, they need that pre and post workout, or right before and right after. And they need to be getting some kind of faster digesting carbs, something that can quickly go in. If they're eating a salad or something before, or rice or potato, that's not going to digest very quickly and help them. The same thing for after workout. It's not going to digest very quickly to quickly be absorbed when their body's looking for something to kind of help them start rebuilding, start refueling and stuff like that. Now, when you're a few hours from training or a few hours after training, that's when you want to look to get some of your greens, some more dense stuff that's going to be slower digesting throughout the day. But we got to know the time and place for that stuff and when to utilize it. Don't be scared of it. Your body needs those simple carbs with that protein to help combine, and that's what's going to help kind of rebuild that muscle, kind of help boost that energy back up, get you up and rolling. Outside of that, with the foam rolling, we had a funny situation. Well, not really funny. I have a couple foam rollers missing at our school right now. Don't know where they went, so I tucked them away, put them away, and kids aren't able to use them right now. And some kids are freaking out. I'm like, man, a few years ago, I was like, we didn't have foam rollers. I said, and we did just fine recovering and moving, but we were also a lot more active. We moved around a lot more. When I see, or when I think back in college, when I had one of my kinesiology professors, he was a physical therapist and all that, and he said, keep it simple. Motion is the potion. It's one of my favorite terms. Keep moving. Okay, get outside, get a little vitamin D. Get moving around, okay, whether that's a 10-minute walk, whatever it is. Maybe you're doing some light body weight stuff outside just to get your body moving, nothing real strenuous. You're going to feel great after. Your body's going to start recovering, getting some new circulation of blood in and pulling old blood out. It's simple things like that. But people got to kind of come back to the roots of things. But yeah, that chocolate milk, people are getting so scared of the sugar, but you can't, pulling that away is not going to help. They're going to find sugar in some other way. Maybe we look on, that's a whole nother topic, but getting them moving for recovery. So many people move less and they have more of that stuff. But back then, you guys never worried about sugar or any of that because, I mean, just like we were talking about the other day, think of your grandmother. You were talking about what she was doing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about just, for example, the bacon. People worry about the fat, worry about this and stuff going on. Again, the kids are working out and stuff going on. And I remember grandma going out, and she always had that little Folgers can sitting on top of the stove that was full of bacon grease. So she could dip that in and make it, and our food was terrific. But back those days, with our grandparents and people like that, nobody was fat. We didn't see it. We didn't have the overweight issues that we do right now. But getting those movement, there was things going on, we can do that. So we're going to have some future ones. We're going to break down a lot more about diet and some of these and answer some of the questions that we're getting on that as well. But you've got to look at the movement, what's happening. And yes, the rock and refuel and all, it tastes good. And yes, the sugar content's up there. But again, it's a post-workout. It's something they're doing to work. They're moving, recovery. That's what it's about.
It's meant to be that way.
Yeah, we're not sitting there playing video games for 3 hours and drinking a large Gatorade or a rock and refuel or a big thing that's going on with a lot of sugar. That's not the idea. It's recovery that's specific. That's what each thing is specific about. Just like the strength training and the speed camps and stuff, it's not just about running around, getting exhausted and throwing up. Something's wrong if you're doing that. It should be specific. Everything they're doing, make it small, hit their time, get it done, be explosive, work it, get the skill, get done, go do something else, go have fun, do something else, go do their homework, get a nap, whatever you need to do, it's great. But just to do it because, that's a problem. So, I think that main thing is our recovery talk. We want to talk here because of the questions we're getting, which is great. We appreciate those. Keep the questions coming. We got more topics and stuff going on every week. Again, every Saturday, look for this. If you haven't already done so, hit the link below, which will take you to our strengthofamerica.us page /theSOApodcast. That'll get you on our email list, some of the different offers, some of the things that we've got going. It's all free stuff that we're going to be getting out there. But it also gives you access to our vertical jump program, which is a $30 product. But again, as part of this and following it, there's no charge for that. So you make sure you get on and get that link to it as well. Or questions, email us, that's below. But keep the topics coming. We appreciate it. We're having fun doing this, getting some things up, and appreciate the coaches that were at our clinic we did at Grand Canyon University last week. Having Coach Eric Reed having us out to work with a lot of them, had great coaches from the high schools to learn a lot more about speed. Ours was about, it's not about the 40, because again, that fast speed, but that change of direction, that quick movement we've got to get. And last week's topic, which was about that quick first step. So keep going back, look at the past episodes going on, look to our new YouTube page, which I have linked as well, and just keep them coming. We'll keep having fun, keep expanding this as we go along. Let us know things that you want to keep adding, and we'll throw it in and help you out.
Keep it simple. Eat, sleep, move more. You'll be all right.
All right, we'll see you next week.
See you later.